स्मृतापि तरुणातपं करुणया हरन्तीं नृणाम् अभङ्गुरतनुत्वषां बलयिता शतैर्विद्युतां कलिन्दगिरिनन्दिनी तटसुरद्रुमालम्बिनी मदीयमतिचुम्बिनी भवतु कापि कादम्बिनी. Uh, we finished this discussion actually. So atha asyam sukham shabane kim manam iti chet samadhau api tadbhane kim manam iti paryanayogasya tulyatvat. So rasacharvanayaha anandamayatvam. When we are trying to experience rasa, it is very close to brahmananda sodaraha iti sahitya darpane api uktam. So what is he is trying to figure out the difference between the two of them. Sukhamsha bhane kim manam iti chet. If the other person asks you what is the pramanam for saying that rasa charvanayam sukhamshaha vartate, you are experiencing sukham when you are experiencing rasa, tatra kim pramanam vartate iti chet, then I can also counter question you paryanayogasya tulyatvat. I can counter question by asking samadhau api, even in samadhi yoga, when you are saying atmanandaha anubhuyate iti yatra bhanam udbhavati tadbhane api samadhau api tadbhane sukha bhane. When there is a sukhamsha in samadhi, what is the pramanam there? We say that only the person who experiences understands that Atmanubhavaha, and it is his experience that we are taking as a pramanam. But what is the actual pramanam there? So in the same way, the person who is experiencing Rasanubhava, also we take that Sahridaya's experience as a pramanam, right? So it is a tulyatvam there. I can also question you, you can also question me. And सुखम आत्यंतिकम यत् तद् बुद्धिग्राह्यम अतीन्द्रियम इत्यादिहि शब्दः अस्ति तत्र मानम इति चेत्, if the Advaiti quotes from Gita saying sukham atyantikam yat tat buddhigrahyam atindriyam, it is beyond indriyas, it is we are able to understand it with our buddhi, that is buddhi sakshatvam eva tatra vartate, and sukham tu atyantikam, it is a permanent sukha that we experience during atmanubhava. Ityadihi shabdaha asti iti vedantinam vachanam. So if that is your case iti chet, you only take a sentence from Gita, whereas Rasagangadhara takes a sentence from Shruti itself. He answers and says, Asti atrapi raso vaisaha rasam hi evayam labdhva anandi bhavati ityadi Shrutihi. I have Shruti pramanam here, one which is raso vaisaha, saha or Brahma, ananda, atma. See, Anubhavaika Vedyam only. Yes, Shabda Pramanam only applies here, and it is Anubhavaika Vedyam. Absolutely, that's what he also says here. Of course, there is Shruti Pramanam also. Raso Vaisaha, Rasam hi eva ayam labdva anandi bhavati. He becomes blissful, anandi bhavati, when he attains this rasam. And what is that rasam? Raso vai saha. Saha iti atma, parabrahma. Ityadi Shrutihi vartate. Sakala Hridaya Pratikshanja Pramana Dvayam. We have two pramanas here. Anybody who is a Sahridaya, Atratu Bhamadevaha, Shukaha, Apridane, we talk about there are one or few in millions who come as Atmajnani. We don't know that whereas Sahridayas are much easier to comprehend and much easier to look for. So there are more Sahridayas than Atmajnani. So Jagannatha Pandita says, Sakala Hridaya Pratyaksham cha iti pramanadvayam. I have two pramanas here. One is Shruti Pramanam, the other is Hridaya Pratyaksham, Sahridaya Pratyaksham. They also have had this experience and they talk about it. So I have two pramanas here. Okay. Yayam dvitiya pakshe tadakara chittavrityatmika rasacharvana upanyasta sa shabdavyapara bhavyatvat shabdi aparoksha sukha alambanatvat cha aparokshatmika. So it is aparoksha pratyaksham and shabdam. So it is both the Shabda Vedyam and it is Paroksha Pratyaksha Jnanam. So this Dvitiya Paksha that he mentions here is actually, we will have to, the Yadva Iti Mate, actually Munnadi Vandu, in the earlier section I had made a mark of that. This is the first Paksham. Na inge 1, 2 nu potuk sonna ungala. ஞாபகம் இருக்கான்னு தெரியல. So விபாவாதி சர்வணா அவதித்வாத் ஆவரண பங்கஸ்ய நிவృత్తాயாம் தஸ்யாம் பிரகாசஸ்ய प्रकाशस्य आवृतत्वात् विद्यमानोऽपि स्थायी न प्रकाशते. Even though स्थायी is present, it does not show. That is avarana bhange. When there is avarana bhanga, then I can experience the स्थायी. When there is no avarana bhangam and tatra avritatvat nivrittayam tasyam, when the स्थायी is, when the rasa charvana is gone, when charvana is gone, nivrittayam charvanayam prakashasya avritatvat, the prakasha swarupa is completely covered, hence स्थायी na prakashate. This is one paksha. The second paksham here is yadva विभावादि चर्वणा महिम्ना सहृदयस्य निज हृदयता वश उन्मिषितेन तत्तत्स्थायी उपहित स्वस्वरूपानंद आकारा समाधौ इव योगिनः चित्तवृत्तिः उपजायते तन्मयी भवनम. This is the second option that he gave. In the first one, it is just avaranam and then avaranam is gone. That's all it spoke about. In the second paksha, he says charvana mahimna sahridayasya Tattat Swarupananda. This is where he comes close to Bhavakatva Vyaparam and all that. So he comes close to where a Samadhi Stha Yogi Yada Yatha Atmanandam Anubhavati Tatha Atrapi Rasanubhavaha Jayate. So this is the second paksham that he is talking about. Now we have to go to our present this thing. Dork. So Ya iyam dvitiya pakshe. So in this second, when he says tadakara chitta vrityatmika rasacharvana, which is of the form of this tadakara, which is of the form of that atmaswarupa, illana atmananda, correct, rasarupam. Okay, anandakara chitta vritti. So tadakara ityukte anandakara chitta vritti atmika rasacharvana. Upanyasta, when I had spoken about that before, that state is shabdavyapara bhavyatvat. It is possible only because of shabdasya vyanjana vyaparena eva tatra utpanna charvana, utpanna chittavrittihi. We hear the words of the poem, we hear the actions, and then from those words, Shabda Vyaparena Bhavyatvam, we feel that Anandam. So it is a Shabdi Akriti Charvana. And Abaroksha Sukha Alambanatvat, the moment we see that play, we immediately experience joy in our mind. Hence, it is Pratyaksham. We are experiencing it first hand. So it is also Pratyaksham because it is of the form of Atmaswarupa here. So Pratyaksham and Shabdam. Okay. Tattvam Vakyaja Buddhivat. Tattvamasi iti Vakyena yatha Vedantinam mate. I will just read the Vyakyanam here. So, nyayadi manaye shabdatva pratyakshatvayoho viruddha. There is a difference in nyayamatam as to shabda pratyaksham is different from pratyaksham. Shabda pramanam is different from pratyaksha pramanam. Pratyaksha pramanam comes only from indriyas. Shabda pratyaksham comes from, shabda pramanam comes from an aptavakyam. Aptavakyam shabdaha aptastu yathartha vakta. So, whatever he says, I believe, so his words become the pramanam for me. In Kintu Vedanta Mate, Vakyam Tattvamasi ityadi Shruti Vakyam. We hear the words Tattvamasi, Guru Mukhat Tatra Yada Tattvamasi iti Vakyam Shruyate, Tasmat Jata Buddhi Jiva Brahmaikya Pratitihi, Atma Brahmatmaikya Pratitihi iti Vaktavya. तस्याः यथा वेदान्तिभिः शब्दजन्यत्वात् शब्दम् अपरोक्ष ब्रह्म आलम्बनत्वात् च अपरोक्षम् अदावद् प्रत्यक्षम् इति च अङ्गीक्रियते. सो शब्द प्रत्यक्षम्नु सोल्वा वेदान्तमते तु शब्दादेव तत्र प्रत्यक्ष आत्मज्ञानस्य अनुभवः जायते. You know, the first time they actually experience Brahmananda from words. So the Shabda Tattvamasi Vakyam is both Shabdajam and it is also Pratyaksha. So Tattvam Vakyaja Buddhivat. Just as how in Vedanta Matam also you have a Vakyam and it gives you an immediate experience. Paroksha, Pratyaksha Jnanam of Brahman. In the same way, in my Kavyam also, you are listening to a poetry, you are listening to the words of Shakuntala and Dushyanta, and immediately you are also experiencing that Anandam as Pratyaksha. Okay. Iti ahuhu Abhinavagupta Padacharya Abhinavaguptacharya Padaha. This is Abhinavagupta's matham. Now he moves on to Bhattanayaka's matham. Abhinavagupta and Rasagangadhara do the same thing only. They talk about the same Dhvani matham only. There is no difference. It's a very slight difference where he says Bhagnavarana Achit Rasaha iti Paṇḍitarāja matham. Abhinavaguptasya matham tu tatra विशिष्ट स्थायी एव रसः इति भग्न आवरण विशिष्ट स्थायी भावः रसः इति स्मृतः. So one becomes the visheshanam, the other becomes the visheshyam. Adu munnadi paatho nama. Yeah, we saw that before. So now he moves on to Bhattanayaka's this thing. Tātasthena rasapratitau anaswadyatvam आत्मगतत्वेन तु प्रत्ययः दुर्घटः शकुन्तलादीनां सामाजिकान् प्रति अविभावात्. So ताटस्थ्येन रसप्रतीतौ अनास्वाद्यत्वं. ताटस्थ्यम is औदासीन्येन. You are a neutral person here. So swasambandha rahityena, without any connection with ourselves. There is a play going on. Oh, Dushyanta is falling in love with Shakuntala. What is my problem there? Iti yadi is kashchana pashyati. Then he is a neutral person there. He doesn't even get involved himself with the play or the movie. Then there is no point. He need not even watch. He can just get out. So he should be involved. There should be some sort of an involvement with the characters there. But what is that involvement? That is where there are different matas. Right? So swasambandha rahityena tātasthena rasapratitau anaswadyatvam. When we are trying to experience the rasa, we cannot, there is no chamatkaritvam there. Anaswadyatvam, achamatkaritvam. Dushyantaha shakuntala vishayaka ratiman ityadi akaravattvena yadi tātasthena vayam pashyamaha. If we are neutral and we only look at Dushyanta has love towards Shakuntala, then there is no swadhyam. That is, there is no aswadhyatvam there. There is no chamatkaratvam there. We don't see a beauty in that. Atmagatattvena tu pratyayaha durghataha. Atmagatattvena. How are you connecting yourself now? Swasambanditaya. Aham Shakuntala Vishaya Ratiman. I love Shakuntala. Appadina, that understanding is also not fitting properly. I am in love with Shakuntala. No, who will say that? How can you say that? So that is also, I am somewhere else. I am a woman, probably. That is also there. So that sort of there are so many difficulties that you have to cross through when you don't generalize things and say, just I also have experienced love in some sort, and I can see, I can relate to what is happening. That sort of an understanding or an attitude should come when you see a movie or a drama. If that is not there, then it is difficult. If you are neutral, then Dushyanta and Shakuntala are loving each other. I have no problem with it. Tatra, there is no chamatkaratvam. If you are trying to put yourself in the situation of Dushyanta and saying, I am in love with Shakuntala, there too pratyayaha aswadatmika pratitihi durghataha asambhavaha. It is not at all possible, because what are you falling in love with there? There is a question there. Yeah. So samajikan Shakuntaladinam samajikan prati avibhavat. She is not a vibhava for the samajika. She is a vibhava. Shakuntala is a vibhava for Dushyanta's rati. She cannot be the vibhava for the samajika's rati. How can she be? Tattuna sambhavatyeva. So Dushyanta itara sahridayanishta sringara rasa analambanatva, alambanatva Abhavat, alalambanatvam. She cannot be responsible for the Shringaram for anybody other than Dushyanta here. Yeah. Now, Vina Vibhavam Analambanasya Ratyadehe Apratipattehe. Now our Vibhava itself is gone here. When there is no Vibhavam, Analambanasya, there is no Alambanam for it. Because there is no Vibhava, there can be nothing which kindles that love in us. So, Ratyadehe Apratipattihi, Yadyapi Rati Vartate Manasi Samskara Rupena, Tathapi Tasya Pratipattihi Najayate, Uddipanadi Shunyatvat. There is no Uddipanam, so there is no manifestation of that Rati at all. Nacha Kantatvam Sadharana Vibhavata Avachedakam Atrapi Asti Iti Vachyam Apramanya Nischaya Analingita Agamyatva Prakaraka Jnana Virahasya Visheshyata Sambandha Vachinna Pratiyogita Kasya Vibhavata Avachedaka Gotau Avashyam Niveshyatvat. Okay. Now he goes into Nyaya Bhasha. Ittanera romba easier irundhathu. It is very sulabham, right? But now he suddenly brings in the Nyaya Bhasha. Now we do a Sadharanikaranam. There is something called Sadharanikaranam that we have to do. What is that Sadharanikaranam? We have to just take Shakuntala as a Nayika. That's all. Kanta, someone who is attractive. So you substitute your experiences with that and try to do it. But at the same time, you will not take a Puduva, adavadu Sadharana Kanta iti yadi vayam svikurmaha, tari tatra Mata api Kanta, Bhagini api Kanta, Avala Kuruchu namakku vandu, we don't have a rati towards those two people. Then we have to, Yataha Tetu Agamye, you cannot approach them with the Shringara in your mind. So you will have to, even if you do Sadharanikaranam, you will have to put in the clause of Agamyatvam na bhavitavyam. Apramanyam na bhavitavyam. The moment you fall in love and then later you say, oh, this is not a pramana purvaka love. Iti, you don't, the badha viraham bhavitavyam. So you'll have to put in a lot more of adjectives when you want to understand the vibhava for this rasa. Okay, idha solla varar. We have to now parse the language that is there in this. That's all. The understanding is very simple. I'll go over this a few sections here. So atrapi Shakuntaladi bhumikam grihitavatyam natyam. There is a nati who has taken up this role of Shakuntala. Okay, part of Shakuntala. What is happening here? Sadharana vibhavata avachedakam alambana vibhavata samaniyata samanya dharmaha kantatvam nayikatvam. Sadharana vibhavata. Sadharana vibhavam ityukte, you only take the commonality that you find between Shakuntala and any other vibhava that we think about in our mind for Shringara. So what is the avachedaka dharma there that we want to take about? Actually, I made a chart, I think. 1 minute. Let me, I forgot. I prepared 2 days last week itself, so I had something there in it. So, Vibhava is Shakuntala here. Okay. Now, there are so many different dharmas in Shakuntala. We have, she is Kanva Putri, she can be a person in the ashrama, she can be Dushyanta Priya. There are so many different dharmas in Shakuntala. Now we have to take one particular dharma that is there in Shakuntala as a Vibhavata. Okay, so Vibhavata is Shakuntala Nishta. So Vibhavata is something that is making her into a Vibhava. Sa kimartham Shakuntala vibhavaha atra iti chet tasyam vibhavata vartate. So Shakuntala nishtha eva vibhavata. The quality of being a vibhava is present in Shakuntala. Now we need to look at what particular dharma we need to take from her. There are so many different dharmas that we have. Kanva putritvam, Ashramasthatvam, Dushyanta Priyatvam. There are so many different qualities that are there in her. Avachedaka is always a dharma that distinguishes it from other vibhavas. So this particular vibhava, what is the avachedaka dharma with which I am approaching this particular vibhava? That is your avachedakam. So vibhavata avachedakam ityukte, the dharma or the quality that we only want to look at Shakuntala. We don't want other things here. Okay. So vibhavata avachedakam is, let's say, kantatvam. Someone who is a kanta, attractive person, attractive lady. That's all we are saying. Or kanta ityukte mana avlo duram kuda povanda. You can just take it as a woman. Okay. When you take it as woman, there are this kantatvam, just as how it is present in Shakuntala, it is also present in Mata, Bhagini, Parastri, everybody. Would they also become vibhava for your Shringara? No. How can a person look at Mata with Shringaram? How can someone look at a Parastri? Parastri, Sparsha Pamsulahambar. Dushyanta is a person who does not look at a Parastri. So Parastri is not a dharma here, adharma rupam. So Sringara, even if you take it as kantatvam, you will have to look at the specific qualities with which you are looking at the kanta or taking that kantatvam there. So the sentence here is kantatvam sadharana vibhavata avachedakam atrapi asti iti nacha vachyam, because we have still not gone to this part. The Mata section and all has not come as yet. So we cannot take what is kantatvam now. There are so many dharmas in Shakuntala. We only take the kantatvam from that as the vibhavata avachedakam, vibhavata dharma. Okay? Is that clear? So kantatvam alone cannot be taken as the avachedaka dharma. Iti nacha vachyam iti asti atra. Okay, so you cannot take only kantatvam as a avachedaka dharma. Why? Now he goes on to the next sections here. So, nacha, now apramanya nischaya analingita agamyatva prakaraka jnana virahasya visheshyata sambandhavachinna pratyogitakasya. Seri, adu perusa point irukku. Now vibhavata vachedaka kotau avashyam niveshyatvat. This is the main part. Now vibhavata avachedaka dharmaha tu kantatvam. We have to include certain visheshanas into that vibhavata avachedakam. So vibhavata avachedaka kotau avashyam niveshyatvat. கட்டாயம் நம்ம வந்து சில ரூல்ஸ் எக்ஸெப்ஷன்ஸ் எல்லாம் போட்டாகணும். It is like disclaimers that you have to put in. You can't just take kantatvam as the vibhavata avachedakam. You need certain visheshanas there. What is that you have to do? First is let's take the apramanyam. Apramanya nischaya. Apramanya nischayam angarche, the first thing is it should be a jnanam which is not apramanikam. Apramanika nischayah tatra na bhavitavyah. இதெல்லாத்தையும் வந்து எதோட கனெக்ட் பண்ணோம்னா அப்ராமான்ய நிச்சய ஞான விரஹஸ்ய, அந்த விரகம் இருக்கு பார்த்தீங்களா, அதுதான் we are trying to explain that viraha. So it should be a jnanam which does not have apramanya nischayam. It should not be an apramanika jnanam. First, pramana jnanam angarche, it is a truthful understanding, which later it is not na badhyate, or there is no doubt about it, or it does not. இப்ப நம்ம வந்து சுக்தில ரஜதம் பார்க்குற மாதிரி வெள்ளிய பார்க்குறோம், ஒரு கிளிஞ்சல் இருக்கு, அந்த ஆயிஸ்டர்ல we see rajatam there. Rajatam is a jnanam. First of all, we first have a doubt there. First there is a nischaya jnanam, right? There is a nischaya jnanam that idam rajatam. Then we move closer and closer and say, oh, idam rajatam va nava shuktir va iyam shuktihi va idam rajatam va iti samshaya jnanam bhavati. First was the brahma jnanam that idam rajatam. The next one is a samshaya jnanam, and then you conclude, you come closer, you take that object in your hand and you realize it is an oyster. That is when the Tattva Jnanam comes in. So for that Tattva Jnanam, what do we say? There should be no samshaya, no brahma. Samshaya, viparyaya, brahmadi, jnana, rahitam jnanam eva. Nischaya jnanam. So we have to give in the adjectives of these things. So in the same manner, for Kantatvam also, we have to give in this adjective of Apramanya Nischaya Jnana Virahasya Vibhavata Avachedakasya. அப்படி வந்து கனெக்ட் ஆகணும். அப்போ அந்த அப்ராமான்ய ஞானம்ங்கிறது என்ன இங்க? அத்ர தூ, in this situation, what is the jnanam that we have? There is Nati who is on the stage. She is an agamya kanta. Kantatvam நம்ம எடுத்துக்கிறோம். Even though we take the avachedaka dharma as kantatvam, we still think I cannot approach her with rati. So agamya esha kanta. Okay. So that is the jnanam that we have. In that jnanam, what is the visheshyaha? Visheshya is kanta. Visheshanam is agamyatvam. Irka? அது புரியுறது இல்லையா? விசேஷனம் விசேஷ பாவம் தெரியும் இல்லையா? So agamyatvam becomes your visheshana, which is also called as prakara. அதுதான் இங்கே பிரகாரக ஞானம்னு போட்டிருக்காரோ இல்லையோ? So the prakarakam jnanam should not be touched by apramanam. Ada solla varaporam. Prakaraha agamyatvam, visheshyaha tu atra kanta. So visheshyata sambandhavacchinnam should not there should, okay, let's anga po and ipo. Let's just look at apramanya nischayam. Now there are two places where we can apply this situation. Where do we feel a shringara? There is a shringara towards your bharya. There cannot be a shringara towards other kanta, other women like janani or bhagini or parastri. Okay, you can feel a shringaram towards your bharya. So gamyayam swabharyayam, but then there can also be iyam me agamya iti bhavati. As we are looking at Dushyanta and Shakuntala on stage, we look at Shakuntala and suddenly we may have this samshaya because we are experiencing that love between in our mind, our personal love, atmagata love. Then suddenly we will feel, no, it is Shakuntala who is being seen here. So I cannot approach Shakuntala. So can I approach my wife or not? அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு டவுட் வரும் இல்லையோ in the mind. இது மூலியமா தானே, பிகாஸ் அது மூலியமா நம்ம மனசுல வந்து ஒரு பாவம் ஏற்படுறது. அது ஏற்படும் பொழுது நம்ம மனசுல வந்து நம்மளுக்கு பிடிச்சவாளை நம்ம அப்ரோச் பண்ணலாமா கூடாதாங்கிற ஒரு சந்தேகம் வந்துரும் இல்லையோ அந்த இடத்துல. அதுக்கு சொல்ற. சோ இயம் மே அகம்யா இது சம்சயः பவித்தும் அர்ஹதி. தத்து அப்ராமாணிகம் ஞானம். அகம்யாயாம் ஜனன்யாதிஷு இயம் மே கம்யா இது பிரமஹ அபி ஜாயேத. காந்தான பொறுமையா எடுத்துட்டோம்னா பொதுவா when we do a sadharanikaranam, when we do a neutralization there, or samanadikaranamla kondu vandutomna, kanta can apply to swabharya, kanta can apply to shakuntala, kanta can apply to mata also. Apo shakuntala is the context, whereas bharya is she is agamya. Okay, agamya esha kanta shakuntala. Now that agamya is the visheshanam here. Can that visheshana be applied in all cases of kanta? No. If we apply that agamya to bharya, then that becomes a samshayatmaka jnanam. Can I approach her or not? Iti samshayah tatra bhavati. Because we have said that Shakuntala is unapproachable. So we will apply that kantatvam to the bharya also and say, because of the kantatvam being present in both Shakuntala and bharya, I have a doubt whether I can approach my wife or not, on account of her also having kantatvam. Sariya? Agamyayam jananyadishu iyam agamya iyam me gamya. I can approach them angra oru iduvum varlam. So you should have such doubts should not be there when you express the vibhavata avachedaka dharma. So the vibhavata avachedaka dharma, which is kantatvam, should not have an apramanya jnanam in it. Adudha. So apramanya nischayena asprishtam prakaraka jnanam bhavitavyam. Is that clear? Okay. திருப்பி ஒரு தடவை கேட்டு பாருங்க, அப்போ வரும். And the words are only difficult, otherwise the situation is easy. Now the first agamya kantangro, now in that visheshya is kanta, this jnanam is present in this visheshya with a visheshyata sambandha. The agamya kanta iti jnanam, அதாவது இந்த ஃபார்மேட்ல உங்களுக்கு விசேஷ்யா இஸ் காந்தா அண்ட் விசேஷனம் இஸ் அகம்யா. பட் திஸ் ஞானம் இஸ் பிரசன்ட், தட் நாலேஜ் எப்படி இருக்கு அப்படின்னு பாக்குறச்சு you would have read in Tarka. So jnanam is present with visheshyata sambandha in so this prakara actually is present in this through visheshyata sambandha, and the visheshya is present in the prakara through the prakarata sambandha. Okay, அதுதான் இங்க வந்து சொல்றார் விசேஷ்யதா சம்பந்தாவச்சின்ன பிரதியோகிதாக்கான்னு சொல்றார் ஞானம். அப்போ ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஒன் இஸ் அகம்யாத்வ பிரகாரகம் ஞானம் விசேஷ்யதா சம்பந்தேன காந்தாயாம் வர்த்ததே. The jnanam which has this prakara is present in visheshya by visheshyata sambandham. அதுதான் இங்க ஃபர்ஸ்ட் இருக்கு, விசேஷ்யதா சம்பந்தா. நோ சம்பந்த அவச்சின்னம் என்ன? சம்பந்தேன அவச்சின்னம் யத் ஞானம். தத் ஞானஸ்ய பிரதியோகிதா ஞான அபாவः அகம்யாத்வ பிரகாரக ஞான அபாவः. இயம் மே அகம்யா இதி ஞானம் தத்ர ந பவிதவ்யம். தாத்ருஷ விபாவம் இருக்கணும். See, if you look at Shakuntala and you are trying to experience love, you cannot have the knowledge that, oh, I cannot approach her. If you have the knowledge that sa iyam agamya iti yadi jnanam tatra vartate, tari shringarasya udbhutihi eva na bhavati. I can approach her with love nu oru thought vandadane, can you even have a rati bhava there? சரியா? புரிஞ்சுதான் தெரியல. Any doubts in this? Okay. Let me go back to the text now.
திரும்ப கேட்கணும் ஒரு ட்ரிப்.
ஆமா, விஷயம் என்னன்னா நமக்கு வந்து பொதுவா சகுந்தலாவை பொண்ணு அப்படின்னு சொல்லி நிறுத்தி வச்சுட்டோம்னா, பொண்ணுங்கிற ஆஸ்பெக்ட் எல்லார்ட்டையும் தானே இருக்கு. இவளை வந்து நான் அப்ரோச் பண்ணலாமா கூடாதாங்கிற சந்தேகம் வந்துருமோ இல்லையோ மனசுல. எல்லாமே எவ்ரிதிங் இஸ் ஹேப்பனிங் இன் யுவர் மைண்ட் ஹியர். In your mind, if you want to feel that rasa anubhuti, you also have to get into that situation somehow, in some manner, that rati has an udbhuti there. So what is the situation that you will find wherein there is a rati? Only in a situation where you can approach with confidence, with dharma, that this is a person that I can approach. இல்லையா? அது இல்லாத இடத்துல எல்லாம் நம்ம காந்தாத்வம் கொண்டு வந்து புகுத்த பார்த்தோம்னா எப்படி அது போட்டி வரும்னு கேக்குற. அப்போ நீ சாதாரணமா காந்தாத்வம்னு எடுத்துக்காத. You have to give in these visheshanas and qualify that kantatvam here. அப்படின்னு சொல்லி, so what are the qualifications? Agamyangra qualification should not be there. That is our crux here. Agamyatvam should not be there when I understand some dharma in Shakuntala. That gamyatvam should be understood in some manner. அப்போ என்ன பண்றோம்? அந்த சாதாரணீகரணத்துல you, with whomever you share love, you try to think of that situation and you are enthused by that in some way. Yeah. Okay. So, nacha அதோட அடுத்த அன்யதா ஸ்வஸ்ராதேஹே அபி காந்தாத்வாதினா தத்வாபத்தேஹே. So otherwise, even with your sister agamya rupena, agamya angana ya vartate, anya angana tasu api tatvam na bhratradinishta shringara alambana vibhavatvat, then the bhratranishta shringaram will come there. So it is actually you cannot feel a shringara towards your swasa. So to avoid that, you can't take kantatvam alone as the vibhavata vachedakam. Okay. Evam Ashocyatva kapurushatvadi jnana virahasya tathavidasya karunarasado. This is not the case only for one rasa. Rasantareshu api drashtavyam. You can also look at it in the same manner with other rasas. Someone is dead on stage. Abhimanyu is dead. Arjuna is looking at him and crying. Now, Ashotyaha, he is not a person whom I have to cry. Nanna veno avanukku. Appadi nanachenna. Appa enakku enge indha karuna rasam varum andha edathula. I am shotyaha iti mayapi tatra anubhavitavyaha. If I am not able to feel that this person is in a pitiable state, then I will not get karuna rasam at all. If I think that he is a bad person, kapurushaha, I am. Iti yadi tatra jnanam vartate, then I won't feel karuna rasam at all towards the situation in which that person is. If Charudatta in Mrichakatikam is a person who undergoes daridryam, and we have to feel for that person and we feel karuna rasam for Charudatta, we can't say, oh, he deserves to be a poor person. Who asked him to do all these things? If we have that sort of an attitude, then there is no karuna rasam there. So, ashochyatva kapurushatvadi jnana virahasya. That should be an adjective for the vibhavata avachedakam there also. So, in every rasa, Shringara rasa ukta ritya eva karuna rasadau api vibhavata avachedaka kotau கோட்டவுங்கிறச்சு அந்த அந்த ஒரு பகுதியில அப்படின்னு சொல்லணும். ஓகே, as part of the vibhavata avachedaka dharma, you will have to put in ashochyatvam kapurushatva prakaraka jnaniya visheshyata sambandhavacheda pratiyogita ka bhava samanadikaranya. Okay, vinashta purushatvam. So if you just take vinashta purushatvam as the vibhavata avachedakam, that is not enough. You will have to put in certain conditions of saying that he has to be pitiable. That is, he cannot be not pitiable. He cannot be a bad person here. So, okay. Iti rasantareshu api uhyam. You will have to think about other rasas also in this same manner. Tadrisha jnana anutpadastu tat pratibandha kanta tat pratibandhakantara nirvachanam antarena durupapadaha. So it is very difficult to it is very difficult to conclude this Bhattanayaka's sadharana karanam or kantatvam that he takes. It is very tough to understand without a tadrisha jnana. Abhavaha is very easy because tat pratibandhakantara nirvachanam antarena, without talking about any obstacles that may arise in understanding the vibhavata avachedakam, it is very difficult to understand Bhattanayaka's words. Is that clear? So, tadrisha jnana anutpadaha. It's not possible, anutpattihi. It is not possible for a prakara. Always we'll have to keep on thinking about what will be the adjectival feature here. Prakarata jnanam kītrisham bhavitavyam evam tu visheshyata jnanam vartate chet. We have to constantly keep on thinking what will be the that doesn't happen during rasa anubhuti, is what he says. Okay. Swatmani, again the next doubt is he starts idu vanda adutha class paakalam. Seriya?